How many sugars?
2, please.
Okay.
Very, very loose way of working. If we start loose, we can finish as tightly as you want. But if you start tight, you're stuck from the start, aren't you? You've got to go that direction. It's very hard to go back loose into something. With this technique of using pastel and using water with pastel, if you have a watercolour that's failed and you're not going to wash it off or it's overworked, then you can work pastel into that and bring that watercolour back into life in another way. So many people tend to throw the work out, it doesn't quite work, but there's usually a way around to improve things. So get straight into this one. And I'm going to push these colours a bit. What I want is a glaze, an effective light across this very, very quickly. So I'll just get some wet into wet going last. I could use a big cake, but I'm going to use just this oval knot. I like these oval knots. Anybody know Ron Ransom's work? You know, the hake man? No, Ron Ransom uses a hake brush, and he can do most of his paintings fairly stylised with a nice big flat hake, and then finish with a ribbon. I tend to favour these oval knots a bit more. Nice heavy paper, this. In fact, this paper is very absorbent. It's one of these sheets of paper. And you see the pencil isn't moving, being chinagraph. That's another thing too. It's wise to draw out your pencil loosely at first with an ordinary pencil, because if you use the chinagraph pencil, you're stuck from the beginning. If you go wrong, you can't rub it out. Not that I go wrong much, do I? Except in your paintings. What do you want me to do? Pardon? Let's get some colour. Right, so for doing this, we want the colour to be a bit stronger than you would normally use for a watercolour. So I'm going to go a little bit stronger. I'm using cerulean blue at first here. Can you see around me all right over there? Yeah. So very, very fast. I need to be able to finish an oil painting out of doors within 2 to 3 hours. So a painting that size, I've got to be able to manage that within 2 to 3 hours, complete, outdoors. Otherwise the light's changing, and you know, everything is changing, and so fairly strong at first. A bit of cobalt coming down there. It's getting blazing fast here.
This was some people on the beach.
Last time, there's people on the beach I did, yeah. It's an oil painting, very, very different to everything I do for a demonstration must be very, very different, because what's the point otherwise? You can do the same thing all the time. Right, Oriole in yellow, it's slightly greeny yellow, but it's also a much nicer yellow than lemon yellow. It's more, you know, with watercolours, some colours are more transparent than others, aren't they? For instance, raw sienna is a much nicer yellow than yellow ochre, because it's more transparent. Oriole yellow is a much nicer lemon yellow than the lemon, which is more opaque. I'll carry on down here. I'm going to try and push these colours a little bit now. Really look for the colour. Very rapid. You can see the temptation to start doing dry brush work already, which is quite fun, but I don't want to do that in this particular painting. If I were doing you a painting of a street scene, I'd be starting to do a lot of dry brush work now for the technique, but we're not doing that this time. Right, beating wet into wet then, very rapidly. Every single colour or type of colour has a warm and a cool. So the blue, this is a cool blue, this is cerulean, it's an icy blue. Whereas this blue I'm putting on now is a warmer blue, it's the cobalt. And if we had reds, then we'd have warm and cools in those. If it goes more purple, then it's a warmer blue. Sorry, a warmer red. If it goes more orange, then it's a warmer red. So cooler, purple, warmer. Over the oranges. Keep my mind right at the same time here. Now let's come down to warmer still, come down to ultramarine, which is one of our warmest of the blues. And you can see how rapidly we can get the painting going this way. More green tinting into there, push those colours a bit. Blobs here. Interesting paper, this one. It's I didn't realise what it was. It is a rough, but it's some experimental paper somebody let me have ages ago. But it hasn't got much glue size in it. Watercolour paper differs between the different makes, not only in the surface, but in the amount of glue size that's made into the paper, which resists the water on the surface. This one is barely any. It's soaking it in a bit like blotting paper, like fun, but not what I'm telling you. That's my excuse. Right. Here. So what I might do is just turn this round to dry it off a bit, and then come back. And just give it some grasses. With the tip of the brush, just tickling it in. So if I'm outdoors working in the snow like this, I can put the mitts on, my ski mitts. I can be painting outside without getting too cold doing this. I have to find ways of doing this that suits me. Tip of the brush again. See, we can make a brush nut into a blade. We can make it thin, or we can make it fat. We've got all those different ways of painting with it. Some of the cobalt violet, lovely colour, cobalt violet. Some of these colours you just cannot mix, you cannot make them, so you've got to buy them in. Get the effect of light coming behind here with this sunlight just beaming through the trees. Now something we need to discuss, if you enjoy these demonstrations, I mean, I've been booked for 3 more weeks now for Cleethnops. I've got a party going over there that really do enjoy coming to these demonstrations, and the same people want to come all the time and so on. But they have got to ask for a fee towards it, obviously. I don't ask for any money for myself at the moment, but I've got to cover expenses and so on going over there. So they're now going to start to ask £2 a head. What I have to put forward to today is if you enjoy this and you want to come again to another one, you choose what you want. Between you, you can choose today if you want it. The medium, the subject matter, whatever you like. Last time I was asked to do this, that's what I'm doing. We're only looking at £1 or £2 a head, something like that. It's less than half a pint of fun, just to cover the fees. Yeah. So if you're interested, then I would ask you at the end of this time. They can't officially ask you to sign, but if you're interested and want to be kept in touch with any more of these in the future, then you can tell me yourself what you would like another time, and if you just go over to the list at the end and just have your name ticked off, they will keep in touch with you and let you know what's available and what's coming up, all right? I've got, for Cleethorpes now, we're doing, we've just done a large street scene. I've just done, they want a painting knife one next, like that one. But whatever you like, it doesn't matter whether it's a portrait, or you can paint one of you guys, you know, if you say, well, let's have a portrait, then I'll sit one of you down, and you won't see it then, but you get painted. You can push me on, because it does me good as well. I mean, I've got to be, I could just turn out the same old thing all the time, it'd be boring. But I'd like to do something a bit different as well. So I'm just building up these washes very quickly. These colours and warms. It's the effects of it, of light. And I'm going to go to my warmer colours at the moment. I'm still playing with the cools for a minute. start to do a little bit more, a little bit of dry brush work, just a little bit now, just to get the effect of the snow in here and there. Just dragging it over the surface, look. Flicking the paint around. And across too. Now let's start to get into the purples. A lovely purple, this one. But it is tinting into the chinagraph pencil. Plenty of lovely colour. Don't worry if you lose some of the light areas, because one of the beauties of this way of painting is that we're going to come back into this with these pastels to bring those lights out. That's why I'm giving you pretty safe ways of painting here. If you go wrong, you can bring it back again. But we don't want to lose the delicacy of this underpainting. We don't want to lose all of this undercoat and just paint everything out. Same with the acrylic inks. It's silly to put on the very vibrant colours and then leave it all together afterwards. Still, I'm going to go down to a Prussian blue. A little bit of that purple, so much deeper blue. And add some burnt sienna, I reckon, now. Start to go a bit warmer. Some of these areas in the foreground. Basic rule for landscape is you've got two ways of looking at it. Warm in the foreground, cool into the background. Detailed in the foreground, less detailed in the background. Unless, of course, it's a sunset, and then we're going to have something almost the opposite, quite different. We'll just soften that down a bit in places and let that dry off. So you've almost got a painting in there in itself, haven't you? But now we'll let that dry and we'll work back into that with pastels shaded, and it'll suddenly come to life. It's a bit dead at the moment, but it'll suddenly come to life. Right, let that trickle around. I want to paint an effect of light first of all. I just want to get all these various colours like a patchwork quilt, okay? Then we're going to work out the details at the end. So can we use pastel in that way? Yes, we can. There's two ways to put it on. We can put the water on first and then the pastel. We can put the pastel on first and the water. I want to start with some blue greys here, this area here, because I'm going to put my lighter, stronger colours in afterwards. All I want is the effect of these. And that's hot press. This is Archer's hot press, £140. The other one should have been Waterford rough, but it wasn't. I don't know what it was, a hybrid or something. Archer's hot press if I want a smooth texture. You don't have to stretch it, but you can stretch pastel paper in exactly the same way as you can watercolour paper. You can wet it and stretch it in exactly the same way to work onto it. You can work up onto watercolour paper like this without using any water at all. Just use it as a pastel paper. But it's a bit more expensive than the pastel papers, isn't it? You know, nice ombre paper. And don't use the wrong side of the pastel paper as well. Pastel paper often has an orange peel side, not the side to use unless you're doing oranges, because it gives you that nasty texture you're fighting. It's the smoother side. The orange peel texture has nothing to do with the bite of the paper. The bite of the paper is the actual surface like this. And you can see that's taking it quite adequately. But if I want to go into that with water now, it's so fluid. I can paint straight in the same way as I can come back into that if I want, and start to put wet straight into the wet, and I can blend it. And I can work wet onto the dry, dry onto the wet, whichever way I want to go. At the moment, let's say I just want to work up these grey tones, I'm going to use my brush as a sort of textural pattern here. Just to get the feeling of these background trees. Nutty at first. I want my mid-tones, and then I'm going to put my darker tones on, then I'm going to put my lighter tones and work backwards and forwards. So one of the beauties of this is, unlike watercolour, is that I can go any direction I want. I'm not even going to bother drawing this one out. I'm just straight in. I mean, nobody, you don't know this scene, apart from seeing that. It doesn't matter if the tree's 2 foot to the left or right, does it? As long as it works on here, what matters is the painting at the end of the day, isn't it? I'm mixing them as I go along. I can mix them with my finger, I can mix them with the brush in the water. That's totally up to you. I'm just going to start putting this tree that's coming through here. I'm not going to use black, I'm going to use a very dark, but I don't have black in my palette. If I want a dark, then I said I'll make it with very dark warms and cools. So very, very loose ways of working. Just enjoy. Now, I don't, if you come to me for lessons, I don't say you have to paint like this or you have to paint like that. You can come and be who you want. And paint, I'll help you do anything you want to paint. Any style, any way. If you like something that I've done and say I'd like to paint like that, Pete, that's fine by me and I'll show you. But if you've got another way you want to do, that's okay by me. The difficulty I have is that you may be fighting yourself, your own natural instincts. Some people are naturally impressionists, some people are naturally photorealists. So as a teacher, it's up to me to try and guide out of you and help you to find who you naturally are and what you're best at. But I don't force that. You say about the depth of water, one of the best ways to make water, especially reflective water, is to paint the vertical strokes first, the reflections and the depth of the water, and then the surface of the water afterwards with the horizontals. So you're getting then the reflections on the surface or the wind blowing across the top or ripples afterwards. So I've deliberately dropped in some verticals there. I'll be going over with horizontals in a moment. These layers of leaves. I'm now starting to use a bit more texture in the tip of the pastel more to bring out individual leaves and whilst they come cascading across here. I think of trees a bit like atomic explosions. The acorn comes down, hits the ground, goes out, explodes upwards into the branches, and then the leaves form and fall off again, like a big mushroom. So I want these trees to explode up and have life. Life and light. We've got the light shining down from the sunlight through all of this. Now let's start to feel across this a little bit. Let's start to feel some of this water. It's rippling and cascading down, both with vertical strokes and horizontals, and even a bit of feathering in places, just to feel the angles of these. Doing all right, good. Let's go back to our smoke scene, shall we? Go back to the balls a little bit. So quite a different range of colours there now, going back to that. Straight in with the pastels. It's now just dry enough. It's still fairly damp. I shan't want to do a lot into here. I just want to pull out some of the highlights. The light comes round there. You said we can put the lights back on again. So don't worry about having painted it out and losing it. You can now come back into here, put all the little sparkly bits of light back in. If you want to remove pastel from paper, a piece of braid is good, or a stiff brush just to brush it off the surface. In this case, we won't worry too much because I can just go over it again with pastel. It's going to dry lighter in a moment. So. Just bringing the wall forward a bit more to push that back. Give it a here. Leave that one for a moment. And go back to the other. Wow. What do you need?
Yeah.
I mean, for one student who was just starting watercolour, I did 4 totally different scenes. We did the snow scene, we did a poppy in the fields and so on. And I demonstrated on, well, we had 4 boards already. I demonstrated on one side and then she followed through onto the other. So it was almost copying straight through, but it wasn't me doing the work for her, she was then working on. Finished them all and then came back a week later and I told 2 of those people before I could start mine. Yeah, we know that was, don't we?
No, that is.
It's the plague. Where that came from, of course, as you know. The bless you comes with the first sneeze was a sign of plague, and then they used to say bless you. And, I hope not. I've had my flu jab anyway. But this way, I can manipulate the painting to be as detailed as I want, and I can stop when I want. So I could carry on with that, working into it right up at the pastel pencil if I wanted, making it photographic. You've got the choice. Cooler greens up in the shadow here. So we'll use some blues up in there. And that will help the sun to glow through these cools. Just getting these parasols, these layers of leaves going a bit more around here. I can't reach over there. Oh, my shoulder.
Make a difference.
Let's try that one first. I suspect this one for that one.
Yeah, you see how different that makes sense?
Very different. Now let's try the mountain then, can we? Thank you. My assistant here. Right. They're both nice, aren't they? Let's try it on the snow because the snow will make a difference. Because I suspect it'll be the snow. Let's try the one now. Although it might be the other way around, you can't really tell. But those 4 colours I find in permutations I can mount with everything. That's quite nice as
I
well.
like that.
Yeah, that's nice.
So we think that
The other way round.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go, straight it back again.
There's absolutely. Yeah.
So the mount makes a difference, doesn't it? 20 minutes. Yeah, we've got 10 or 15 minutes. We'll just finish off, and any questions you've got, now's the time. Get you all in now. Go on, give me a wave. Hello. Did you enjoy it? Yeah. Good. Somebody's. You got some chinagraph pencils, didn't you?
Yeah. Yes.
Where'd you get them from?
On eBay.
Right. So if you want to have a look at my brushes or anything like that and talk about how things are used.